Whenever you visit a new place, there's always certain attractions that everybody says you have to go to. Today, we'll take a look at New York's most famous tourist activities and see if they're overrated or not. You don't want to miss it. Since this topic is so debatable, I need another New York City YouTuber. We have Sarah Funk, who also gives tours, the perfect co-host.
Hey John, I'm ready to get going. Let's do this.
Let's rock. We call something overrated. It doesn't mean it's a bad attraction. We just think it's a little overhyped.
Totally agree.
So we'll start with maybe the most famous attraction in New York City, the Empire State Building. And it pains me to say this, but I think it's overrated. Now, if you are a fan of buildings, Art Deco style was the tallest building in the world for many years. I think it's great. But if you're a fan of just pure observation decks, I think that the bars on the actual observation deck make it a little bit difficult to see things versus some of the other observation decks. What do you think?
Listen, I sadly agree with you on this, but I do have a thing to say about it. I would say it's not the best view in the city. Why? Because that iconic view of New York has the Empire State Building in it. And what happens if you're in the Empire State Building, John?
You can't see the Empire State Building.
Correct, that's the problem there. But the interior, they have a really cool exhibit. I like that about it, but I would say overall overrated. But if you're strictly there for the view, I would say go to another observation deck.
I'd say for just a pure observation deck experience, I'd say top of the rock for views.
100% agree on that.
This is one that a lot of tourists even tend to agree with me on. Times Square, I think it's totally overrated. I think it's worth visiting once in your life. I mean, I go a few times a year because of filming or going to Broadway shows. It's absolutely overcrowded. Every scam in New York City's hub is Times Square. I know it's iconic and you should go, but I think it is completely overrated.
Listen, I'm gonna say something scandalous right now.
All right.
And I think it's not overrated. Okay, I know that's crazy, but here's why. There's nowhere else on the planet like Times Square. Nowhere, okay? Times Square is totally one of a kind, a commercial disaster explosion.
Well, what about Tokyo? Similar.
I haven't been there, so it doesn't count.
Okay, it doesn't count.
You can't come to New York and not do Times Square, John.
I didn't tell him not to go, I just said it was overrated.
You can't, yes, but it's part of the reason why I say it's not overrated, because I feel like you gotta go there once to get the photo.
Fair. Statue of Liberty, I'm gonna say not overrated if you go inside the Crown, which is one of the coolest things I have ever done in New York City for $24, the same price as going to the pedestal. Look, I understand you can see the Statue of Liberty from the Staten Island Ferry, from all of the boat cruises, but going inside the Crown, no, definitely not overrated.
That's really cool, and I've never done that, but I actually do consider the Statue of Liberty overrated, which it pains me to say a bit, because in a way it is an icon of New York. It's what notified those immigrants that came over from all over the world that they're in New York City. It welcomed them. But I've never been to the Crown, and unless you're going to the Crown, maybe, I don't know, I don't think it's worth it. Why? Because exactly the point you made, which is you can see it beautifully from a boat. I do recommend Classic Harbor Line. It's a much more luxurious experience and only slightly more expensive than those super packed boats that you see on the harbor. On the other hand, most visits to the Statue of Liberty include Ellis Island, which I think is an amazing experience. Actually, you can find where you're past it.
I think it's not overrated also because it includes Ellis Island. Like, I wouldn't tell someone just go to Ellis Island. I would say stop at the statue.
Yeah.
But I understand your point. You could just see it. Depends what kind of tourist you are.
Yeah.
But do the Crown. Do the Crown. Book it a month or two in advance.
Just a month? That's good.
You've heard longer.
I mean, I tried to book it a while ago and they were like 6 months.
No, now it's not so bad.
Okay. I haven't been, so listen to John with that one. What's the next one?
Madame Tussauds. This one, I think, is the easiest in the video to call overrated. Maybe, just maybe, if there was only one Madame Tussauds in the entire world, I would change my opinion. But the fact is, there's 30 of them. It is on every single New York City attraction pass, so it's always super mobbed. And I feel like there's tourists that go there that they'll never take the New York City subway, but they'll just check out the replica. You'll see replicas of New York in there. You should be outside actually experiencing things. It's not LA, we're not a celebrity-driven city.
I agree, 100% overrated. Why? Similar reasons to John. Really, there's no point in going there, it's all over the world. My theory is, if you're coming to New York, you should do things in New York City that you can't do anywhere else, and you can do Madame Tussauds in like a gazillion places. So skip it and save your money, it's not
The Brooklyn
worth it.
Bridge. This is a New York City icon. This one pains me, but I'm gonna say it's overrated. I'm gonna say it's overrated, not for the reasons you may think. I mean, it's an architectural wonder. It was the longest suspension bridge in the world. I'm calling it overrated for two reasons. One, it is always super crowded unless you go at dawn or, I don't know, at night later on. And the second reason is because you can't see the Brooklyn Bridge from the Brooklyn Bridge, but I actually love the Manhattan Bridge walk where you can stare at the Brooklyn Bridge. I think you should do it. I just think it's a bit overhyped.
All right, I'm about to possibly blow your mind here, John. I disagree. I do not think it's overrated, and here's why. Yes, it is crazy crowded, but there's a way to do it now that they just opened that's not crazy crowded. They just opened a bike lane underneath and there's like no one on that. So you can actually cross it now in peace without a gazillion people like in your face, and it's a great experience. The other thing I think is nice about the Brooklyn Bridge is it's a classic view of the city. You don't have to be on it to appreciate it. Is that what your point is? You have to be on it? Is that the key thing?
My point is doing that Brooklyn Bridge walk that everybody does.
The classic walk.
I think it can be overrated. Just the walk, not taking a picture next to it.
Okay, I think you can do it as on the bike. I would say do it on the bike, don't walk it.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
They just opened the bike lane. So originally the bike lane was where all the walking was, and it was absolute chaos and hell.
If you're watching this video and you're visiting New York for the first time, check out my Thatch guides, linked down below. We have everything from itineraries, where to eat, where to go, a big help, linked down below in the description. Central Park. I'm gonna say not overrated, even though I've lived in Brooklyn the last 3 years and everyone says Prospect Park is better. Everyone says it was Olmsted's masterpiece after designing Central Park, but guess what? No parks have that kind of cityscape view and are that iconic and are that big to have so many things going on. I know it's super touristy. You can find little pockets in the park that are peaceful, so many adventures to be had, near some of the best museums in the city. Not overrated.
I completely agree, absolutely not overrated. And whoever said Prospect Park is better is insane to me.
Brooklyn people have told me that.
That's, what? They just say that because they love Brooklyn, and I'm all about that, like loving your borough thing, but saying it's Olmsted's masterpiece, in many ways, Central Park is a masterpiece in itself. It was actually designed to look like the great paintings in Europe, and that's why when you take a picture there, it literally looks like you're in a fairyland.
Oh, totally.
It's absolutely worth it.
The Met. I am gonna 100% say it is not overrated. It is one of the most expensive museums in the city at $30 unless you're a New York resident, but they have works of art in there that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. It is one of the best attractions in the city that you could spend an entire day and not even scratch the surface of. I have met very few people that have ever went to the Met and said they had a bad experience.
100% agree, absolutely not overrated. It is the best art museum in the city by far. And in fact, in the video you popped up in recently about New York in 2023, I talk about how they're going to have two of Van Gogh's most famous pieces on display together in the Met Museum this year. So they're always doing new things. They also have the fabulous Met Gala, hello. I mean, listen, that's just a situation, a moment in itself.
And the rooftop bar has some amazing views of Central Park.
It does. Yeah, I think it's the best views of Central Park from above that you can really get. There's no rooftop bars that really show it like that, except for the Met. The drinks are overpriced and not worth the money.
That's overrated. The drinks on the rooftop of the Met is what's overrated.
But did you know you don't actually have to get a drink there? You can just go up there.
Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. I'm going to say overrated because, for one, it is super crowded almost the entire time that it's up. And two, I don't even think it's the best Christmas tree in the city. I've liked the Lotte Palace's tree better on certain years. I feel like the Rockefeller tree, it looks the same every single year and it's just packed with first-time tourists. So I think you should see it from afar, but I don't think you need to spend too much time elbowing your way in just to get that one good picture.
I agree, it's overrated. It's just too crazy. It's absolute chaos there. It's not worth it. But if you're gonna go there, stop by real quick, see the tree from afar and see the Saks Fifth Avenue light show, and then get out of there. It is absolute chaos though. Crowds beyond anything I've ever seen in the city.
The Highline, I'm going to say not overrated. For one, it's free. It's also one of the most touristy things in New York that I actually enjoy doing over and over again when I'm actually in the area. I mean, you have art displays up there. You're above the city. You feel like you can spy down on people. It has a good history. It used to be railroad tracks. I love how they converted it. I like where it starts. Over in the meatpacking district, walk the whole thing, bam. You're at the vessel, you're at Hudson Yards. So it's the perfect trek for a tourist. I'm a fan.
I also agree, it's totally not overrated. The best time to do it is in the spring when all the flowers are blooming. It does tend to get crowded, so I would recommend doing it right when they open or right before they close, actually. Right before they close, a lot of people aren't there every time I've gone.
What time, like 6, 7?
Their hours of closing changes depend on when the sun sets. Okay. So you want to go, like, in my opinion, right before they close or right when they open.
And you could stop at Chelsea Market, Los Tacos #1. I know you're a fan, right?
Yes, big fan. Which used to be the Nabisco factory, which is where they made Oreos, which I'm also a huge fan of.
Fun fact, I grew up in Fairlawn, New Jersey, home to the Nabisco factory. Driving on the highway, I would smell the cookies, yeah.
Wow, that's tempting. I don't know if I could handle that every day.
If you're visiting New York for the first time, there's certain mistakes that everybody makes. In this video right here, I'll tell you how to avoid them. Watch this next.